All right, doing it. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our course in philosophy, one of the most exciting topics on the planet, because it helps you actually do something that most people don't do, think, which is pretty dangerous, isn't it? I have a special guest with me today, Tom. Tom Morris is a multiple author, philosopher, used to be a professor of philosophy at Notre Dame. Now he's philosopher extraordinaire on his own, teaches and travels the world. He's done some work for me also in the philosophy of religion realm and the areas of thinking about deeply what is it that makes life significant and worth living. So Tom, I'm very happy and excited and honored that you're joining me here.
Well, it's good to be here and be a part of what you're doing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you never got it yet, it's the OASIS Within, one of Tom's many books. Let's see here if it's showing clearly here. There it is, the OASIS Within. Yeah, that's the one we're dealing with now. And Tom just came out with another book. Tom, what are you just magically, spontaneously, ex nihilo creating these books?
Yeah, I tell you, so we're over 30 books at this point, and I sort of am not exactly sure what the count is, but you know, the people who asked me to do this book in the 1990s, the late 90s, Philosophy for Dummies, they called me up and said, hey, we want you to do a woman. So here's the story. Like the professor said, I was giving speeches everywhere. So I was in Florida. I was in Palm Beach. I was at the Breakers Hotel, giving a speech to 3,000 executives from all the chain grocery stores in America. And so I gave a talk called True Success. And it got this standing ovation from all these people. They went nuts. It was like being at a rock concert, you know. And then 3 days later, this woman calls me up and says, hey, I was in your audience at the Breakers Hotel a few days ago. My boyfriend's executive vice president of CVS drugstores. And I said, really? She said, yeah, he invited me to come to your talk because I'm the acquisitions editor for all the Dummies books. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, you have to do Philosophy for Dummies. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. You guys do car repair and gardening and stuff like that, right? Computer books. You don't do philosophy. She said, no. We're getting ready to start lifetime learning. And we want to do the humanities and we want to do the arts. And so we've already gotten Thomas Hoving, the curator of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, to agree to do Art for Dummies. So if you will agree to do Philosophy for Dummies, you two guys can launch our new lifetime learning. And I said, whoa, that's awesome. What if I turn my Notre Dame intro philosophy course into a book? I've never written up my course before. She said, why don't you do that then? And so that's what I did. I had 3 months. So it's
wow, you really did that 3 months?
About the quickest I've ever written a book. And it's a big book, you know, it's like 300.
Yeah, it's an amazing book. I loved it. I remember the stories of it.
So yeah, anyway, I remember. We launched a series. So the same people called me up last January and said, Stoicism is taking over the world in entertainment and sports and the military and business. Everybody's talking about the Stoics and Stoics. Could you write Stoicism for Dummies in 9 months? And I said, whoa, I haven't thought about the Stoics in a long time. But I had a former graduate student at Notre Dame who became a very prominent historian of philosophy. And so I asked him, you want to do Stoicism for Dummies together? He said, I can't believe you're asking. For 4 months, I've been doing a deep dive in the Stoics, thinking about writing a book. And so we wrote it together. We just turned in the final pages this Monday. It'll be out January 11th, Stoicism for Dummies, along with this one that's out this week with a different, better cover than this, a brighter cover. The Art of Achievement Silver Anniversary is out this week. So I'm just inundated with books. And I wanted to mention the Stoics because some people have told me the OASIS Within and the series of 7 novels that it is the introduction to, they are the most Stoic fiction ever written. Some various people have said to me in the Stoicism movement these days. And I said, really? They said, you capture all the best of the Stoics, but none of their flaws, none of their mistakes. In the characters set in Egypt in 1934, in the characters in your Egyptian novels, it's like unbelievable amount of philosophy. And I said, well, thank you very much for saying that, because it's not that I intended that. It's only that in February of 2011, I was sitting having breakfast, and all of a sudden I have the most vivid daydream of my life. There in the kitchen with me, I'm in the desert. there's an old guy and a young boy, and they're leaning up against a palm tree someplace, and they're having this conversation. The opening lines of the book, The Oasis Within. I'm watching this like I'm watching a movie. And I said, I'm a vivid daydreamer, but this was like supercharged daydream. So I run upstairs to the computer where I am now, and I start typing. It's like the movie stopped playing for just a minute so I could get up here. I started typing what I just heard them say, and then it started up again. I'm surrounded by the desert. I'm in an oasis. They're talking. Yeah. I'm typing. 10 pages I put on Huffington Post. And within an hour, I'm getting emails from all over the world. What is this? This is great. Is this from a book?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Second day, another 10 pages. Third day, I see the title. I wake up in bed, and there's the title on the ceiling, The Oasis Within. You guys, I'm not crazy.
I love that.
But
that's great.
Before I knew it,
encouragement for many others too.
Yeah, I was done. Before I knew it, the book was done. But then I didn't know another book was going to start up. Mm-hmm. And it's called the Golden Palace. And when that was done, another book started up. Before I knew it, there were 7 more books after The Oasis Within of over 1 million pages, the biggest Harry Potter, Indiana Jones epic journey that I had ever experienced. And people are saying to me, life-changing philosophy. And it's like, wow. Thank you, because it's not me. I'm just the first guy who watched the movie. I just wrote it down for everybody.
Great. That's great. I love that. Let me bring this down to earth so we can apply it and start taking these ideas and do them properly. Yeah. So let's go ahead and begin with, what on earth is philosophy?
Yeah. What is philosophy? You know, I had a guy visit me from Madrid, Spain. He was a college student from Madrid. He came to Wilmington, North Carolina, wanted to have breakfast. Okay. So we go to have breakfast. We're sitting down. They give us the menus, and he doesn't say, what's good here? He says, what is wisdom? First thing, you know? I said, oh, we're going to get started real quick. Okay. Philosophy and wisdom. Philosophia, love of, philo, sophia, wisdom. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. Think about an object of love, you guys. When you don't have it, you seek it. When you have it, you embrace it. Philosophy is the seeking and embracing of wisdom. And what is wisdom? This guy the guy from Madrid says. And I gave him 2 answers. I first gave him the answer I'd given for years. I said, wisdom is just insight for living. It's discernment. It's good judgment. It's being tied into truth and love in everything you see, hear, think, and do. And he said, oh, wow, really? I said, yeah. But look, it's something else too. And this is a new idea I had. I'd never thought of this before. I said, wisdom is guidance and guardrails. And he said, what are guardrails? He's not an English speaker, first language, you know. And I said, you know, you're up in the mountains driving around a twisty road, and there's a metal railing to keep your car from going off the edge. Oh, guardrails. Okay. I said, wisdom is guidance. It's like a beacon in a tower on the top of a mountain, showing you where to go. And it's guardrails to keep your car from going off the edge as you try to get there. It's guidance and guardrails. Most wisdom in the last 50 years has been great guidance. Very little has been about guardrails. We need both, because people have used the guidance to become very successful, and then they crash and burn. If you have the guidance and the guardrails, you can have the success without the disasters.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Can you now apply that? Now, when I do courses in philosophy of religion, I have a lot of my students tell me I'm spiritual, not religious. That's like guidance without the guardrails, right?
Yeah,
because if too many guardrails, too many rules, you get restricted. But too much wildness, just going out there, you end up falling off the cliff, right? You need that.
That exactly. And you know, religion has come to be misunderstood as well. Religion is thought of as this institutionalized stuff where it's all about controlling people's behavior, controlling their thought. And that's what it's come to be in many contexts. But the word religion comes from Latin religio, which means to tie, to bind, to tether. It's almost like you have a hot air balloon, and when you're not using it, you want to tie it, you want to tether it, you want to anchor it. What do you tether your life to? What do you tie your life to? What do you anchor your life to? If you're like a boat without an anchor, you're just going to drift. You're going to drift. Who knows where you're going to end up, right? So the original idea of religio in Latin, ancient Rome, was tie your boat, tie your life to the right stuff. It's like, no, I don't want to be tied to anything. Well, you're just going to drift then. You're going to be like a kite that breaks its string, and it's just going to go until it crashes into something, right? And a lot of people want that, they think, until they crash. So religio is supposed to be, what do you hold on to? What do you tie yourself to that matters? And well, like everything else, human beings mess stuff up, right? So we can mess up anything. The creativity of humanity is amazing. We can mess up anything. We can take spirituality and mess it up. We can take religio, we can mess it up, and that doesn't mean it's all bad. What it means is this. Ali says this to Walid in the Oasis Within. He tells him about the two powers. Anything that has power for good has equal and opposite power for ill. It's up to us how we use it. I just finished doing the book Stoicism for Dummies, which like I said a minute ago, it's going to be out in January, early January.
Yeah, who's the publisher, by the way?
The same people, the Dummies people. For Dummies, Wiley is the publisher, but it just says on the thing, Dummies. You know, so
not just Dummies.
They knew which dummy to call to write the book. So, you know, but anyway, so. The Greeks had this functionality principle. I call it functionality because they say this: very few things in life are intrinsically good or intrinsically bad. Always good, always bad. Most things in life, their value is in how they function for you. Like money, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it can be a good thing. It can provide resources, but people crash and burn when they get too much of it. We see it all the time. How about fame? Matthew Perry just passed away, and he was, Chandler from Friends, and he said to the New York Times, all I wanted was to be famous. I had no idea the consequences, and he couldn't handle the consequences. So fame, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, how do you use it? How does it function in your life? If you're famous and you use that as a resource to do good on a broad scale, great. Just like money, right? Power, nothing intrinsically wrong with power used well. Money, fame, power. All those things can be used well or badly. Most people who get those things don't prepare themselves to use them well. And so they function wrongly, badly in their lives. Same can be true of religion. Same can be true of almost anything. It can function well or badly in your life. It's up to you. And people say, well, religion's terrible, all these wars and everything. Well, just how bad it can be is a reflection of just how good it can be.
That's right, like love, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
love.
the double power principle, because the worst possibility it has for evil, that just reflects the best possibility it has for good. These things are always come like this as a pair, right? And it's up to us to grab the right side of it. Too many people don't. That's why we have money, power, fame, making people crazy, killing people. Right. And although we do have some people, look at Gandhi, look at Martin Luther King Jr., who use power, who use popularity well to accomplish good things. And that's what we've got to get control of in our own lives. How do we use it? And here's something about the Oasis Within that I didn't realize when I wrote it until later on people started reading it. One reader who's a professor of philosophy at Notre Dame now, famous for his work in ancient Greek philosophy. He said to me, oh, you've done something new in the Oasis Within and in the other novels, because he wrote a blurb for The Golden Palace, the first novel after the Oasis Within. I said, what do you mean I've done something new? He said, we read all these great stories like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. And it's always just some normal characters who have extraordinary things happen. They're challenged by great danger, by a great threat, and they rise up to be heroes, to react with courage rather than cowardice. And we're all hoping, oh, I hope I could do that. If I was ever faced with a great danger, I hope I could be one of those heroes, one of those courageous people, not one of the cowards. He said, your story, starting with the Oasis Within, is the only epic tale that teaches us we can prepare ourselves to be heroes. We can prepare ourselves to be courageous rather than cowardly. And he said that's what Ali is doing with Walid from day one. As the evening falls in that oasis and the fire is crackling and popping and the sand is cooling, and they start having the first conversation we hear in the book, The Oasis Within. Ali is preparing Waleed for greatness. And we all need to understand that's what the philosophers have always been trying to do, prepare us for greatness.
Greatness. Wow. Tom, this is great stuff. Thank you. By the way, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the class. I invited my classes to join us here for this special event. You have some questions, you have some thoughts, you have some comments, some disagreements, some violent reactions. So hold on to them. Hold on to them. I'll give you guys a chance to interact with Tom soon. I just want to touch on the basics with him here. So Tom is an incredible encouragement to me and has been a good friend for a long time. Now, going back now to the book, The Oasis Within, and the other multiple ones, which I'll showcase in a little bit for our students. You said on page 4 of The Oasis Within, as Ali is talking and asking questions, and he says the following, and I would like you to, of course, unpack this for us.
Yeah.
The boy thought for a moment, and he looked a little puzzled, and then he gazed in the face of the old man. As he had admired with all his familiar wrinkles and knowing well the wisdom that must lie behind those words, he asked, "But how can I do that? How can I see the oasis within me?" With your thoughts, my dear boy. All the power we have starts with our thoughts. Use your thoughts well, and you create within you the most vital thing you'll ever need for your life's journey. Your thoughts can have great power, very great indeed. Use them each day, and you'll cultivate your own oasis within. I just love how you write, but please unpack this for us.
Yeah, well, I just write the way Ali talks. In fact, people used to say to me, you're Ali, right? And I said, no, most of the time I'm Waleed. You guys will meet a character in the next book called Mafula, who is super funny and crazy. Some of the times I'm Mafula, but I'm Waleed most of the time. And I just could only hope to be Ali, but no, I mean, he's been my greatest teacher. Isn't that weird that he's a fictional character, but my greatest teacher? But he brings us in that passage on page 4. He brings us to the functionality principle we were just talking about. Most people that think their thoughts just happen, like emotions. You're either happy or you're sad. You wake up, what are you? You're either happy or you're sad, you're tired, you're eager. They just happen to us, these emotions. And most people think thoughts the same way. They just happen. The thoughts pop into my head. I have no control over that. And I always say, no. You can use your thoughts well. The functionality principle, right? We're all going to have thoughts. How do we use our thoughts? Do we let our thoughts just happen? Why would we do that? Do we let our emotions just happen? Why? Because maybe I get angry, and maybe that's not going to accomplish anything. Am I just going to let that happen? In fact, maybe it's not just going to not accomplish anything good. Maybe it's going to create something bad in a situation. Well, am I just going to let it do that? Don't I have some control here? Isn't it my emotion? I mean, your dog, you're going to try to teach your dog not to bite people, right? Your dog, you're going to try to teach your dog not to bark constantly. Your emotions, aren't you going to try to teach your emotions to behave themselves so that they enhance your life rather than destroying your life? Ali says same thing about thoughts. In fact, we can't get control of our emotions until we get control of our thoughts, because it's with our thoughts that we control our emotions. So he wants to help Waleed go back to where it all starts, in the life of thought, the life of the mind. Use your thoughts well. You can create what is an oasis within. It's a place in your heart and soul and mind where you can be safe, where you can be peaceful, where you can be calm, where you can be refreshed, where you can be nourished, rested, prepared for the next stage of your journey. And Waleed, they start off, Waleed saying, boy, this oasis is great. They've been traveling for days from a village in the western part of Egypt. They're heading for Cairo. We'll find out all this later in the book. But they're at their first oasis. And Waleed's 13 years old. He just turned 13. He's saying, well, I didn't even know his name until chapter 3. And if you will read the book, page 1 on, you'll notice that he's just referred to as the boy. And Ali says, well, my boy, I want to talk to you about some stuff. And he says to his uncle, Uncle Ali, I'm really glad I could come with you. So we know what Ali's name is, but I didn't know Waleed's name until chapter 3. There's going to be a storm. And after the storm, a guy runs up to the old man and the boy and says, Ali, are you and Waleed all right? And as I'm typing this, I'm saying, I guess that's the boy's name. That's how I got his name. Ali, are you and Waleed all right? Okay, that's his name. How do you spell that? W-A-L-I-D, I guess, And you guys, by the way, I was at the Washington Speakers Bureau with their 90 employees, the people who would send me out to speak. And this is like 20 years ago when I was going out to speak with George and Barbara Bush and General Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell. And they would say it would be me and Colin Powell, me and Schwarzkopf, me and the Bushes. I was the who's he amongst the who's who. I was like, who's this guy? But they were sending me out. And so I go to the Washington Speakers Bureau. I tell them about these books I'm writing. I tell them about this character named Waleed. And a woman raises her hand. Do you know what the word Waleed means in Arabic? I mean, I have no idea. No. It means boy.
Yeah.
And it's a common first name. If you are writing a coming of age story, you could not have picked a better name for your main character. I said, well, I just heard a guy yell it out. Wally, are you a Waleed? Okay. And so she said, it's perfect. It's like the word guy in English. A guy can refer to a man, but there's a first name, Guy, Guy Andrews.
Yeah, also the word wad in Arabic means water or stream. So there's that
stream within, right? Stream within. Yeah. And in fact, I took the book. Go ahead.
Oh, you mentioned the telescope example, or in turning that upside down to just see the world differently. Yeah. Can you expand on that? I know he was giving his nephew that as well. I remember
very next page, right? Page 5. I got an email right after the book came out. I got an email from a president and CEO of an international real estate investment company headquartered in California. He said, page 5 changed my life. And I write back right away. What do you mean? And he said, the telescope. He said, I have a bad temper. When I'm in a bad negotiation, I'm a screamer, and I'm not proud of that, but that's been the way I've been my whole life. He said, right now, I'm in the worst, most difficult, most complicated international business negotiation I've ever been in. It was not going well, but I had read pages 5 and 6 of the OASIS Within before the meeting. And I'm not yelling, I'm not screaming, I'm calm, and everybody's saying, what's wrong with Jeff? He's not yelling and screaming. And he said, I'm calm for the first time in my life because I turned the telescope around. In this part of the book, Ali is saying, take an oasis with you wherever you go. Oh, by the way, I was in a conversation recently.
That's right.
Yeah. I was in a conversation recently with some people. What do championship athletes do? They take confidence with them to their circumstances. They don't wait for their circumstances to give them confidence. They take their confidence with them. What do championship athletes do? They take their comfort zone with them wherever they go. My football players at Notre Dame, my national championship team of 1988 that I taught philosophy to, they took their comfort with them into every game. They took their confidence with them into every game. Okay, so how do we take the oasis within with us wherever we go? Well, Ali says, have you ever seen a telescope? And Wally said, yeah, there was this guy visiting and he gave me one. I looked through it. It was like amazing. Far away things came close and little things got big. And he said, yeah, when I was a little bit younger than you, somebody gave me one. And I looked at it just like you did, just as amazed. And then I turned it around and looked through the big end. And it shrank everything down to size and it pushed things far away. And I was so amazed. And Waleed said, well, I didn't think to do that. And he said, well, I learned something that day. We all have a telescope in our hearts and minds. And whenever anything that could be bad happens, we look through the end of the telescope that everybody else does. We blow it up and make it big and make it close and make it scary. We need to turn that telescope around and shrink it down to size and push it farther away to remind ourselves that we have more power and more strength and more ability than we may think. And he says, whoa, I'd never thought of that. And he says, look, eventually you get to the point where you just put that telescope down and look at things as they are. Yeah. He said, the ultimate wisdom, you look at things as they are and you have the power
to do it. Exactly.
Comes your
way. It reminds me
of
something Jesus of Nazareth said, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world.
Yeah.
The power of the mind is just incredible. Yeah, thank you, Tom. And by the way, all of us who are listening here, just to remind you, we're discussing, and we're talking about the most important topics in the world, which is the topics of how to think, not what to think. And the way to see the world is how you see it. And necessarily it changes how you actually interact with it, and then it changes you. And the way you actually do that, the most important thing is to be around people who are actually doing that. Yeah. It's like the tree in a forest. It's only as strong as the environment it's in and the ground that it feeds from. You guys are in an environment that's helping that. Keep that, cultivate that, feed on that, keep that in
Yeah.
mind. Because if you don't, you become like the environment that's around you by osmosis.
Yeah.
Tom, in your book also, moving on, I'm looking at page 27 and 26 and 27, where Hakeem spoke up and he says the following. I'm looking at this here, guys. You don't have to feel brave to be brave. It's about how you act and what you do. Your uncle's right. You were brave. It's natural to feel scared in the face of danger. A coward is frozen in fear or tries to run away. You did what needed to be done, and I'm glad to see that you're both fine as a result. Now, that's harkening on the things that you're talking about regarding fear and that. Let's talk about that a little bit, would you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny when people said to me, we all want to be like Harry Potter. We all want to be like the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings. We all want to be the courageous heroes, but not many people feel like courageous heroes. And, I remember growing up, every time there was a hero story in the newspaper, like a firefighter saved somebody from a burning building, or somebody saved somebody from a car wreck right before the car was going to blow up in flames. And they'd say, well, you were the hero. And the person would almost always say, well, I didn't feel like a hero. I just did what needed to be done. And here's the key. Courage is not an emotion. Courage is a choice. And if we wait to feel like doing something, I don't know if I feel like doing that. We could just wait for the courageous people are the people who see what needs to be done and they do it. They don't wait for their feelings to support that. Fear is a feeling. Courage is a choice.
Powerful. Bingo. Mic drop. That's great. Okay, moving on. Page 34. All right. Discipline your thoughts and my feelings, my boy, or your feelings. Pay attention. Be alert to your surroundings. Mindful of your emotions. Cultivate a keen sensitivity to what's real. I love that. And then he starts talking about the problem with the snakes and the vipers in life.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, when I wrote that, when I hear all this about the snake in the desert, there's this dangerous viper. And so later on, I think it was the first time in all my writing of this book that late in the day after I finished watching the movie and writing, I looked it up to see if there are poisonous snakes in the desert in Egypt. And there actually are. And I didn't know that. I mean, I just got it from the movie in my head. But there are. And there's the viper just like this. It makes a lot of noise as it's coming. And all he's saying, most dangers in life are like this. They don't just suddenly come upon us. If we're paying attention, there are signs in advance. We can hear them coming. And most people don't pay attention. So most people are surprised by anything bad that happens in their lives. Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't see that coming, right? But almost always, if you're paying attention, there's going to be some signal in advance that you know to get out of the way, to move away from this situation. And a lot of people will say, if they've been with a group of people and they get in a lot of trouble with that group of people, or they're in a place where they shouldn't have been doing something they shouldn't have been doing, they say, I had this feeling, weeks ago, I shouldn't be going with this group. And if I just listened to that feeling, right? Because you could hear the warning signs in advance, the viper coming, right? But most people don't pay attention. And that's why we talked about religion a little while ago. Most of the great religious traditions have as one of their principles, pay attention. Pay attention to the world around you. As Zen Buddhists say, be here now. Don't just be in the past. Don't just be in the future. Be in the present. Right. Pay attention. Right. Because if you pay attention, you won't be as surprised by things. You'll hear something coming. You'll sense it coming. And then you can respond appropriately when the time is right without being caught off guard.
Right. Well said. Well said. And there's many people here, especially my students and people I know personally, who have friends in their life who are like snakes. They've seen the red flags. They've seen the fangs come out. They've seen the poison drip. But they always say, it won't happen to me. He's kind. He won't do that to me. Oh, sooner or later, that snake will turn its venom on you. I think we need to pay attention and get out of the way before it happens.
Yeah, it's true.
Cut those ties, don't we?
Some people even seem to like one mean quasi-violent friend as protection, but you can't buy a mean guard dog and know that he'll only bite other people. you
Oh.
eventually get bit yourself. And that's the kind of the universal testimony about the people we hang out with. Yeah, I like being around this tough guy because he's sort of a protection. Well, yeah, huh? You feel safe in his presence, but guess what? With the wrong provocation, you're the target. You're not the person being protected. So be careful who you hang out around, because he might be one of the many people who are not in control of their own emotions and thoughts, and you just be capable of doing anything at any time.
Right. Well
And,
said, brother. Well said.
and so,
Yeah,
pay attention.
yeah, I could keep going here with the book, but I'm going to stop for a moment. We're about at 30 minutes point here. So I'm opening up here for my students and those who are who join me, special guests. If you have any questions or any comments for Tom, feel free to take your mic and speak it, and turn your camera on if you're available. Decent, if you're decent, that is, to ask your questions. Let me know. I'm going to continue with my conversation with Tom. And again, if you have a question, if you have a comment, go ahead and speak up. I'll be quiet for a moment. If you don't, I'll continue.
I do really quick, Professor.
Okay.
For both of yous, I recently at 36 learned that lesson. I don't know if it was Jesus, or someone said, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are, or something, I'll tell you who you are, or something like that. And recently just things transpired in my life that made me realize, yeah, you are the company you keep.
Yeah.
But it was at 36. Like, how old were both of you when you guys kind of, had that light bulb epiphany, like, surrounding yourself with different or positive people really do affect how we think and how we act in society.
Yeah, that's a good point. It may have taken me longer than it took you, actually. So yeah, that's it. But I benefited without even selecting the right people. The right people happened to come my way, so I was just really lucky or protected, because I was around a lot of good people from an fairly early age, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. But I sat next to a guy on an airplane once. He had started, I think, a software company and made a lot of money. And so we were both in first class on the airplane. I was there because somebody else was paying for my first class seat. I was going to give a speech. He was there because he was just rich and always in first class. But he said, I got this therapist. And one day he said to me, take out a piece of paper and write down, draw a line and put the name of your five best friends that you're around, people that you're around the most. Name 5 people that you're around the most and write their names down, in a column. And you can have one family member in the list of 5, but no more than one. But otherwise, people you're around out in the world, And he said, then make some other columns down the page: a financial column, a physical column, a spiritual column, a social column. Now, for each of those 5 people, think about that person for a second and rank them. How well do they do financially? How well do they manage money, make money, manage money, use money? How well do they do physically? Or do they try to take a walk every day? Do they try to, smell the flowers, be around nature every day, do a little exercise? Do they try to eat well? How about the next person, spiritual column? Does this person seem to have any kind of spiritual sensitivity or not? Or are they just chasing material things all the time? How about the social column? Is this person that gets along with others well? And then rate them 1 to 10. And do that for each person. Now I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to come back in 5 minutes after you've done this. And he said, okay. So he did it. And the guy left the room, and the therapist comes back in the room and says, okay, I want you to look at this chart now. You are looking at your future. And he said, what do you mean? He said, the 5 people you're closest to, they are your prediction of what you're going to be like in the future. And he said, so take that to heart. And this is all true story. So I say to the guy, really? I said, so what happened as a result of you realizing this? And here are his next words to me. Well, the divorce was easy. I said, well, wait, what? He said, I realized my spouse was not the kind of person I wanted to be around. He said, but unwinding the business partnership was much more difficult. His spouse and his business partner were not the kind of people he wanted to be 5 years down the road. And so he got out of both situations. I thought, it's the last thing I expected to hear. But he said, it is true. You become like the people you're around. So be careful. So look at 13-year-old Waleed. He's around Ali. And you meet some other characters in the book too. A guy named Masoon, a guy named Hamid. You're going to meet a lot of people in the next book, The Golden Palace. If you'll go there, some women who are amazing, the best women characters I've ever seen in books. No question about it. Who are the people you want to be around? And some other guys too. Who are the people you want to be around? And their daughters, some sons and daughters, but the daughters really, and their mothers are like mystical warrior types that are just amazing people for the good, always fighting for the good. And the girls are growing up to be like their moms, and Waleed ends up learning so much from them because of the people he's around. He's being prepared for greatness in his own life. Just a little kid from a Western village in Egypt, right, who is teaching the world. I just had an international book group on all 8 novels, the OASIS plus the big 7 novels. An AI specialist from Stanford University, a rock guitarist from Germany, all kinds of people from all over the world reading these novels with me, 1 novel a month. And you guys, what I learned from them was astonishing. They became like the people for me that Waleed is around. And so hang out with great people. You know, what's going to happen to you? Well, you know, you're going to become pretty great too.
That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. Great question. One of the most important lessons of my life is changing my environment, changing the soil that I'm planted in changes the world around me. Because when I change the people that I'm interacting with, I end up becoming like them. Yeah. So if I don't like the way they are, I have to change where I am and who I am by changing the people around me. And to have the delusion to think, oh, I could just become who I am, doesn't matter my environment, that's kind of, I think, naive. I mean, think if you're in Gaza right now with the bombs falling around and the Israeli army coming and the missiles and, it's just all within me. Well, some is true, it is within you, but sometimes the environment is so toxic, you need to get out of there. Yeah. You really need to. So
my wife shows me this all the time. She's a great gardener, and we have a big garden behind our house, and she's often repotting things and moving them from the shade to the sun. Well, that's a metaphor for what we're talking about. Move yourself out of the shade into the sun, get yourself into the right soil, the right pot. There's a great parable in the New Testament about 4 different kinds of soil. You know, and I used to say to myself, am I good soil? I want to be good soil for any idea that comes my way, because you can think of ideas like seeds. And if it falls into bad soil, it's not going to grow. In fact, I asked a biologist once, I said, what's bad soil? What's good soil? And he said, okay, let's start with bad soil. It's sterile. It has no life in it. Zero. He said, good soil, by contrast, has all kinds of microbes, has worms, has all kinds of little life forms in it. It's good soil is just a proliferation of life. So if you drop a seed in that, it's already swimming in a sea of life. It's going to gain life as well. He said, a bad soil is sterile. It's nothing. It has nothing to offer. The best seed needs the best soil, because growth is a partnership. Growth is always a partnership. The ideas that come to you from outside you and the soil you have inside you partner up to make great things happen.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm interviewing Tom Morris. Let me show you exactly some of the things he's done. If I may, I'll share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see this. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Here are some of Tom's books. What if Aristotle ran General Motors? I love the titles. And here's some stuff he's doing here. Of course, Plato's Lemon Stand, Our Idea of God. I've got to talk to you about that one. That looks good. The Oasis, and there's a few others that Tom has done. The Stoic Art of Living. Is that the? That's that
I'm just seeing folders on the screen, on my screen. I'm seeing lots of folders.
Let's see here.
Have you opened the folder yet?
Huh, interesting. Let me see.
So you are screen sharing.
I am. You always see folders. Oh, you want to look at my folders? That's weird. Okay, let's take a look at this. Share.
Which folder do you want to get in?
Right, which folder am I opening? Let's see. This is desktop number 2. How about that? You guys see it now?
Oh, yeah. See it.
All right. Thank you for telling me. I was looking at the wrong screen.
I've been busy.
Okay, there you go. There's some of Tom's books. I'm just pulling up the Amazon here of Tom's books. There they are. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, back. Yeah.
There
Oh,
they are.
superheroes in philosophy. I'm going to give a copy of that to a girl who works at our grocery store.
Yeah, I remember that when you gave me the opportunity to speak on that topic once. That was great.
Yeah, that's
in New
right.
York.
That's
Harry
right.
Potter. Harry Potter ran General Electric. I love that.
Right. All kinds of things here. What do you know?
Yeah,
Yep.
these are some of Tom's books, and the ones we're working on now, of course, are the Oasis and the Golden Palace is the next book in the series.
Yeah.
This is after the Oasis Within. So please take a look at some of Tom's books and cultivate your mind and feed that. Put some good philosophical nutrients into the soil of your soul by reading some more of his books and his wisdom. So again, I'm opening up for discussion. If you have any thoughts or questions for Tom, in the meantime, I'll continue my interview with him.
Yeah, I have a question for Tom. Hey, did you have any help writing your books? Like, did you have any, I know you said you watched the movie in your head, but like anything around you, like your wife or family members that kind of helped plant some ideas with it, or just
well, that's a good question. Yeah, no, my wife was learning how to crochet or knit or 2 or 3 other things like that when I was writing these books. And so she said one night, why don't you read to me what you've written? And this was like with the first chapter, I'd written like the first 2 or 3 chapters. And so I said, okay. And so, I took them downstairs and on a tablet or a laptop or something, and I read to her out loud, and I got like into the 2nd page, and she said, who are you and what have you done with my husband? Because that's not the kind of book I've ever written before. I write serious philosophy books, although I try to put in as many jokes as I can in every one of them, but still pretty serious books. And so she was just like, you got to read me more, you got to read me more. And so I would do that every night. So I would, in the day, I would write a chapter or 2, and in the night I would read her what I'd written. And one time 2 or 3 times I had written too much and it was late and I wanted to, it's time to go to bed. She said, no, you got to keep going. I want to hear the whole thing. And she, a couple of times asked me questions, which may have helped prepare me for what was to come next, which is really great. And then I had a couple of neighbors, one guy who had started a huge printing company in Nashville, Tennessee, that printed the books for the famous New York publishers. And he had retired, and I met him in the gym, and he was a discus, javelin, and shot put champion, this guy. In fact, he was in the senior, he's about almost as old as me, so he's in what they call the Senior Olympics. And he was one day talking about something, and he won 3 gold medals or something. He was in Sydney, Australia, or he's always flying around the world. And I said, how many gold and silver medals do you have? And he said, 400, 500. And I mean, it's like, what? And this guy wanted to become the editor for my novels. And so he would read them at first for typos. And then he would ask me questions. And it's like, at one point, he said to me, fairly late in the series, he said to me, you got to write a book about an ancient scroll. There's got to be a book. I said, no, that's too many people have done that. Written a book about somebody finds an ancient scroll and there are these hidden mysteries that are in the scroll. No, I'm not doing that. That's overused. No, you need a book about an ancient scroll. And he would just harp on me about that. I thought the series was done. There were 6 books at the time, big books. I'd been writing for a year, constantly every day, 6 hours a day. And I said, no, there's not going to be an ancient scroll. 2 weeks later, I come into the gym and I said, well, there's another book, a 7th big book. And you probably won't be surprised when you hear that the title of the book is The Ancient Scroll. It's about a couple of ancient scrolls, not just one, but it's all together. And the Nazis are trying to get them. This is 1934 and 1935 in Egypt. The Nazis are trying to get them because they're scrolls that have to do with everlasting life. And Hitler had a 10,000-year plan. And you don't develop a 10,000-year plan when you think you're going to live to reach 80 or 90. You have a 10,000-year plan when you think you're going to be around for that. And so they're trying, the Nazis, there's a group of women assassins, and they have a spider tattooed on their forearms, a very deadly spider. And they're from a secret society in Germany that, as I'm reading this stuff, as I'm watching my movie, I found out, there was a secret society that gave the early members of the Nazi Party to the Nazi Party, and they were concerned with really weird spiritual stuff and stuff like the everlasting life. And so there's a bunch of women assassins sent to Egypt to either find these scrolls or kill whoever's got them, you know. And so that's the last book, and there's tons of philosophy in the book too.
Right, right. All your books have philosophy. I don't think
all my books, right?
If we're writing without putting it out. But
that's right.
That's Natalie. So you're answering to your question, Natalie, regarding what Tom's saying. He's surrounding himself with people who are genuinely inquisitive and people who are genuinely creative and asking questions to help cultivate your own mindset. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah. And this guy, for example, this guy Ed is his name, who said that I was going to write a book about a scroll. Ed was always right about stuff. Sometimes he saw something coming before I did. Isn't it interesting that this is a guy who sometimes knew my next stage in my story better than I did? And this is a guy who had won 400 to 500 gold and silver medals in athletic competitions. This is a guy, when his competitors saw him coming in Germany, in Argentina, wherever they all went, best I can do is third place. Because they knew this guy was going to bring it. He was going to bring something special. And you guys, if you go into the very next book, The Golden Palace, you're going to find out Walid discovers there's a secret society since before the pyramids of people helping each other cultivate special understanding and special talents in this world. It's named after the Greek letter phi. It's a circle with a line through it. This secret society is called phi. And if you are deemed to be a person who should be in this society, you are called phi. And there's a reason for that. But Ed Hearn, this neighbor of mine, clearly is phi. My father was that. My father would know things before they happened, crazy things. My father his mother was that way. His mother could talk to animals, bring dead plants back to life. His mother had some amazing abilities. My father did too. My father went to visit a minister that was going to sell some real estate. My father was in real estate. And my father goes to knock on the door, and he stops just short of the door because he hears a voice in his head saying, "Don't disturb him, he's dead." Now, you guys, the phrase "don't disturb him, he's dead" seems self-contradictory. If a person's dead, how are you going to disturb them, right? But my father here, "Don't disturb him, he's dead." So he backs off, gets in his GMC Suburban, drives home. My mother says, "You're supposed to be with Reverend Harris today." He said, "He's dead." "What do you mean he's dead? We saw him yesterday. He's in perfect health." "No, I went to knock on the door and I hear that, don't disturb him, he's dead," in my head. And so I came back up. "Are you crazy?" My mother says. 3 hours later, I get a call from the guy's son. He died of a heart attack inside the front door, right there on the other side of that door, right before my father got there.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff my father would know. That's why he would be in the society that you will learn about in the Golden Palace. You want to meet people like that. You want to be around people like that because they may awaken in you talents and powers you didn't know you had.
We're getting close to the end here, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, comments, please ask them now or hold your peace.
Is that Faith got a question? Turn on your volume, Faith, and let's hear you ask a question. Or you could type it into the chat, either one.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Faith. Okay.
Help is on the way. Because it doesn't show that her microphone is muted.
No, it's not muted. Yeah, it's on.
But the volume may not be turned on for the microphone in the computer or whatever.
Right,
so,
or it might be on low.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, while Faith is working that out, I have something else that jumped out to me in your book on page 119.
Okay.
It says it's about self-control.
Oh.
Hamid spoke up again and said, this is page 119, well, self-control is something called willpower. And it's a little like the power of a muscle. You can build it up and you can deplete it. The more you use it, the more you need to use it in a given day, the more difficult it gets. It's almost as if you can weaken your power of will the way you exhaust the strength of a muscle by repeated use or overuse. I know one of the most important skills and the thing distinguishes a man from a boy, from a woman, from a girl, from an animal to a human is a concept of self-control, being
Yeah.
able to take control of those inner faculties of our emotions and our thoughts distinguishes us from the mature and the immature. As other students are jumping in and thinking about their questions and their comments, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, you know, we've just learned in recent science that there's a certain amount of the brain depends on glucose, and there's a certain amount of, if you have a day of thinking of a lot of things, making a lot of decisions, you burn through a lot of that glucose. And so they say that if you're in a court case, you don't want the judge making the decision right before lunch when he's hungry, depleted glucose in his brain. He won't be able to think as clearly as he would, after lunch or late afternoon, right before dinner. There are certain times that if you want somebody to judge something for you, help make an important decision, don't approach them at the wrong time of day. If you're having to make, why did Steve Jobs just wear blue jeans and black mock turtleneck shirts every single day? Same Nike shoes. So he had a closet full of black mock turtleneck shirts, closet full of the jeans, all black, whatever the color jeans were, because he didn't want to start the day having to make decisions about stuff that really didn't matter. He wanted to wait until he got to Apple, where the decisions mattered, before he was challenged to use that muscle. Don't wear out your decision-making muscle on stupid stuff or on trivial stuff when you need to save that ability, because we have a limited amount each day. Then you have to go to sleep again. You have to eat. You have to do stuff like that. That's why sleep and eating is so important. One of the reasons is that you can't think as well if you're not rested, if you're not well nourished. And so, feeding kids at school, making sure kids have something to eat at school. What do we want them to be able to learn and think or not? You're right. So it's the same thing in our own lives. Don't make important decisions when you've stayed up too late, when you haven't eaten. And a lot of people make that mistake. They don't understand. And my dad taking the North Carolina real estate license exam, which was supposed to be a really hard exam, he was going to stay up all night studying for it. And I said, don't do that to yourself. Get a good night's sleep, have a good breakfast. You'll do much better. He did as I suggested. And most people, you have to take that exam 3 or 4 times to pass it. He passed the first time with really high marks. And he said it was because he had a good night's sleep. He had a good breakfast. He was functioning in all ways. Self-control is not going to take care of itself. We have to, again, fertile soil, good soil for self-control to work. Okay, so we got Faith has headphones on. Here she's asking a question by chat. Good for you, Faith. Do you have any tips for gaining the confidence to go to the sunlight with these philosophically great people? I feel like it's challenging to put yourself out there if you don't feel like you're at the same level or have less accomplishments and experience. Here's the thing I've learned. The people who are more advanced than we are at anything, they once were exactly where we are. And they were usually helped by somebody to get to where they are now. And they want to be that person now for us. So we're not bothering them. And I went through a period of my life where I never wanted to call super accomplished people because I didn't want to bother them. They're too busy. They don't have time for another phone call. And you find out, not only are they not bothered, but they typically love to help other people because that's how they got to where they are. Other people helping them, and they remember that. But now there's some real jerks who don't remember that, right? And forget them. If you try to get their help and they blow you off, well, fine. You didn't want to be around them anyway. You're better off. But there's so many people who are so far beyond where any of us is at any given point, but they got there through other people helping them, and they realize how much those people loved it, and they love it too. So they don't regard the rest of us as bothers. They regard the rest of us as, oh, good, I get a chance to help somebody, propel somebody up to the next level. And that's how it works. I mean, you don't know that until you try it. Like I talked to a guy the other day. It was a few weeks ago. So he's a personal coach. He's a life coach. And I met him through the founder of Whole Foods, a guy named John Mackey. He's John Mackey's personal life coach. And Mackey said, hey, I want you to talk to my friend. I forget his name now, but so I set up a Zoom with him and we had the most amazing Zoom. And I said, well, how do you get clients like John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods? And he said, well, I've got a lot of amazing clients. Like he said, I just got off the phone with Matthew McConaughey, the actor. I'm his coach.
Oh, wow.
I'm his wife's coach. He said, you wouldn't believe the famous people that I have as clients. And this guy that it's talking to me is probably 40 years old. And I said, well, how'd you get them? And he said, I cold called them. He said, I made a list of myself. Who are the people you most admire in business, in politics, in entertainment, and sports? Figure out how to get in touch with those people. Send them an email, make a phone call, leave a voicemail. Hey, do you have a life coach? I'm a really good life coach. I want to be your life coach. He said, I didn't have any connections, but people said, really? This guy's just calling me out of nowhere. I'm curious about who this guy is. And he said, that's the way I got all my clients. And I said, you must be pretty good to keep them as clients. And he said, yeah, I'm doing what I'm good at. And I said, just give me a rough idea. I don't know what the salaries are for life coaches. But how do you charge people? How do you know what you charge? He said, I got no set stuff. I just kind of go with my feeling about what. I said, well, how much could you make annually, being a life coach who doesn't really have a fee schedule for people? And he said, my average year, 5 million. Y'all, here's a guy not afraid to send an email. Here's a guy not afraid to make a phone call. And he has to keep turning down Matthew McConaughey's parties because he's got work to do. Now, you guys, bring your confidence. Bring your confidence with you. Don't wait for your circumstances to give it to you.
That's powerful. Yeah. Thank you. I have a few other questions here. Let's see. Liliana asked, what's your opinion about self-doubt? And I have a couple others coming in.
Doubt your doubts is my opinion about self-doubt. Doubt your doubts. There are a million reasons to doubt yourself, right? Some of them you should take seriously and look into. Do I not do X enough? Do I not know enough about Y? Okay, find out more about Y. Do X a little bit more. But most of all, self-doubt is just about the unknown. It's about the uncertain. And at the end of the book, Waleed's really worried. He's got a lot of self-doubt going on. And he's just so much uncertainty in his future and so much uncertainty in his head. And Waleed says, have you ever considered the possibility that uncertainty is a gift? And Waleed says, what is that? What does that even mean? And Ali starts to explain. Most of self-doubt is just about the unknown. It's about the uncertain. But when you come to understand that if everything was certain, if everything in life you knew about in advance, in every detail, that would be a world to echo the Disney movie name, Frozen. Let it go. That's not the world you want to live in. Just let it go. You want to live in a world with an open field of possibilities. That means a world of uncertainty. But that means that self-doubt, well, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know if I'm good enough for that. Self-doubt plays no positive role beyond occasionally reminding you of some work you need to do. But self-doubt does not limit itself to helpfulness. Self-doubt is going to pull you back. And in our ancient prehistoric past, the emotional brain was important to think of all the things that could go wrong, all the threats that will face you when you go outside that cave, all the animals that can attack you, we don't live in that world now. We live in a world where fortune favors the bold. So many Greek and Latin philosophers have said. Listen to your self-doubt, then thank it and send it on its way. Sometimes it has positive things to say. Most of the time it doesn't. Occasionally, it'll give you a nugget of reminder or warning you need to listen to and then do something about it. Otherwise, leave its company.
That answers the question about being your worst enemy, doesn't it?
Oh, what are your thoughts on you being your? Yeah. One of the things I've had to learn is how to get out of my own way. I've had to learn how to get out of my own way. I would bring my own problems to a situation, not realizing they were self-created problems. I had to learn there's a spiritual tradition of emptiness, and that crosses East and West. There's both Buddhists and Hindus and Christians who talk about emptiness. And the thing is, we get so full of ourselves. We get so full of what we want, what we think we need, what we like, what we don't like. Sometimes we just have to let stuff go and open ourselves up to something new that could be the best thing imaginable, but we were scared of it because we had too much stuff going on in us to be open to it. It's almost like you have to empty yourself out to be open. A psychologist once told me, he said, I think the single greatest human quality is openness. Being open to new things. I had told him the story about meeting John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. I got an email one day. The guy said, I've read all of your books. They've changed my life. If you're ever in Austin, Texas, I want to take you out to dinner. And hey, I'm a philosopher. Free meal? Sure. I'm in Austin, March 11th and 12th. I'll be happy to go to dinner with you. Well, I'm in Dallas those days. Come a day earlier and you can stay at my house and I'll cook you dinner. Who is this guy asking me to stay at his house? I don't know who this guy is. Who is this guy? This is taking a strange turn. I look down John. I look beneath his name is John Mackey, founder and CEO of Whole Foods. I'm gonna go stay at his house just to see what it's in his refrigerator, right? I mean, this guy started Whole Foods, for crying out loud. And so I go to meet him, and a lot of other things happen that day. That I'm eating lunch in Whole Foods while he's in meetings all day, and a woman says to me, "Why are you here?" She's like 80 years old. I'm here to meet John Mackey. Why do you want to meet John Mackey? Well, he wrote me an email and said. It said he read all my books. What do you write books about? I write books about so and so. She said, I write books too. I said, you do? What do you write books about? I write books about the magic in the mundane. And I said, what does that mean? She said, you get a new job, you go to a new school, you get in a new class, you meet a new person. If it's good, it can be magical for a while. And then 6 weeks later, 6 months later, it's just, It's mundane. The magic is gone. I hope people get the magic back. I said, whoa. She said, you need to meet my brother. Finish your salad. I'm going to take you to meet my brother across the street. He's famous, not like me. I said, okay. So I finished my salad and she pulls me across the street, this 85-year-old lady. And this building, glass building called Idea City, in big, huge letters above this glass building says Idea City. So she goes to introduce me to her brother. She says he's famous, not like me. You know, the George Bush and who was it else? Oh, Bill Clinton and George Bush tsunami relief TV commercials. My brother made those commercials. You know, Southwest Airlines, he advertises Southwest Airlines. Coca-Cola, he does all their advertising. He's this famous guy in the ad world. And he said, here she is. Brother, come and meet you this guy. I want you to meet this guy I just had lunch with. He wrote a book called If Aristotle Ran General Motors. And he looked at me and he said, that's my favorite book. I said, come on. And it turns out he's best friends with John Mackey, whom I hadn't even met yet that day. Yeah. Long story short, John Mackey gives me a Whole Foods for my little town of Wilmington, North Carolina, second biggest Whole Foods in the state, just because I asked him for a Whole Foods. And I tell a psychologist about this. He said, because you were open. You were open to going to Austin, Texas. You were open to meeting this man you didn't know. You were open to staying the night at his house. You were open to this lady walking across the street. Openness. That's the key.
That's the key. You said he gave you Whole Foods?
He gave us a bit. I said, my wife, he comes running into the room. So he was going to be in meetings all day. He gave me an office at Whole Foods so I could work on a book. He comes running in halfway through the day. He says, I'm John. I got 10 minutes between meetings. Let's philosophize. I said, my wife says no. My wife says no. I got to say this to you first. First thing I got to say to you is this. Wilmington, North Carolina needs a Whole Foods. He said, yeah. We get that from people all the time. Their demographics, their requirements, a big enough population, blah, blah, blah. We can't. No. John, let me tell you. You started Whole Foods in Austin, Texas for Austin, Texas. Is that right? And he said, yeah. Wilmington, North Carolina is a miniature Austin, Texas. He said, what are you talking about? You guys have a great music scene. We got a great music scene. You got a great university. We got a great university. You got people who love outdoor sports. We got people who love outdoor sports. And I went like this. You built Whole Foods for Wilmington, North Carolina. You don't even know it. And we keep trying to get one and we keep getting turned down. Oh, man. He said, oh, look, let me ask you about Kant. And so that night at dinner, his iPhone keeps going off. Tom, I never do this at dinner. I'm really sorry, but this is something really important. Okay, John, that's fine. 7th time, he sets his phone down in front of me at his dining table. Tell your wife she got her Whole Foods. I said, wait, what? He said, that was me on the phone with all my new store people and my real estate people and everything. You got a Whole Foods that'll open in 1 year on Oleander Drive, Wilmington, North Carolina, but it's second largest in the state of North Carolina. Hope you enjoy it. I said, I brought you a $5 philosophy book. You're giving me a Whole Foods store for Wilmington, North Carolina? He said, yes, I am. And you know what, y'all? I was courageous without having to have the confidence. I didn't have any confidence he was going to say yes to a Whole Foods store, but I thought it was worth a shot.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. That's very encouraging. Yeah.
Take the shot.
Yeah. Well, Tom, this has been an incredible journey for us and thinking through a lot of these things. Let me pause for a moment. Anybody here for some last comments and last as we land the plane?
That's the one thing I've never done is land a plane. They let me fly a plane once, but I never actually landed it.
All right. Well, Tom, it's been a pleasure as usual. Thank you for continuing doing what you're doing. May God continue to bless the work of your hands. Oh,
thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote in the comments, but I sent it to someone else. What do you think about the always waiting for the right time?
Oh yeah. Yeah, always waiting for the right time. Now, there are two concepts of time in ancient Greece. There's chronos and kairos. Chronos is just those seconds and minutes and hours ticking off your clock. Chronos is just regular time. Kairos is the right time. When the time is fully come, we have a verse in the Bible, when the time was fully come, God sent forth his son. The Greek used there meant almost a pregnancy, a pregnant woman ready to deliver. There's some times where you have to wait for the time is right. There's some times. You need to develop the discernment because sometimes you need to make the time right. Sometimes you can't wait for the right time. Any time is the right time. There are other things where you've got to be discerning. You got to pay attention because if you try too early or if you try too late, it's not going to happen. You need to train yourself to be aware of when is the perfect time for this. And something that would have been hard can be super easy if the kairos is there, the fullness of time. Now, we can't always wait for that. So if we're out there trying and you try 10 times to make something happen, maybe one of those times will be kairos time, not chronos time. Maybe one of those times, maybe the 8th time, maybe the 9th time, maybe the 10th time. And guess what? By then you'll be practiced enough at trying it. You'll be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So opportunities should always be grasped. But if you miss one, most opportunities will knock at your door more than once. Not all. Some is just a one-time thing. If you don't take it, it's not going to come back. And if you know the way to tell the difference, you're golden. But if you've missed one opportunity and you think, maybe it was just thinking about that opportunity was preparing you for the real one that's yet to come, pay attention. What we were talking about earlier, pay attention. Because when the real one comes, you're going to be ready for it. When that time is right, it's going to be ready for you.
Well said. It's well said. I remember somebody, remember who it was who reminded me of that. Better to be prepared and have no opportunities than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Right. That's right. Because you can always do something with that preparation. It just made you a better person. Yeah, it's made you a richer person. You know more. You can do more. Any good preparation, it typically will eventually create its own opportunity. Because I just read a discussion yesterday on whether opportunities are discovered or created, and there are two viewpoints. Opportunities are out there. We just need to find them. And the second viewpoint is no. We need to create them. Well, there was one famous philosopher who said, we must make as many as we find. So let's get busy. Let's make some opportunities happen.
Right. That's right. Okay. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, class. It was some fun philosophizing with y'all today. Let's keep doing it. TomVMorris.com is my website. And most of my books are listed there, at least the recent ones. You can click on straight through to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you like to buy books. If you have any comments on any of my books, there's a contact page on TomVMorris.com, and you can email me through that. And I'd love to hear from you.
All right.
I'm sorry, Tom, can you put that in the chat so we can have it?
Yeah. Let me just real easy. TomVMorris.com, the wwws, the HTTPs, whatever. That'll take you straight there. And there's a novels page, there's a books page, there's a contact page, all kinds of pages. You can get lost in there. It's a website that you can meander through for a long time, discover all kinds of stuff that you can use.
That's right.
And that V is for
Victory.
Victor, because my parents thought that they might as well at least name me as a person who can conquer. I'm trying to live into it.
Love it. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. To get extra credit points, do post in the discussion board there. There's something there for you to post on
Thank y'all.
Tom's.
See you
All
later.
right. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
See you all. Bye-bye.